Welcome, welcome. This is Juan Rodriguez, your host for the fourth podcast for the Allies Community Podcast. And I'm so excited to be doing this podcast. Our guest is a rock star of the industry, and I've seen him from his beginnings of on the beginning stages. And he's pretty much, I could call him my next door neighbor because we're right down the road, and it's a long story that we want to share with you in a couple of minutes here because this is all about the consumer. We want to educate you, we want to empower you, and that's why we're here. I want to introduce you guys with one of the rock stars of this industry. He's a well-known speaker now. He's traveling and teaching other shop owners how to build the right culture, how to scale a business, and I am so proud of him that to have him here, call him a colleague, and not just a colleague, a friend, a good friend. My great friend, Drew Bryant, owner, founder, CEO of DB Orlando Collision. Welcome, man. Drew, how are you?
Wow, great. Blessed to be here. Thank you, Juan. Appreciate that.
It's incredible, man. I know we had conversations where we are dreaming about what are we going to do to impact our communities, how are we going to do to grow our businesses. And I remember a while ago we talked about this. We're going to start a podcast and take the word out to the community of how we are different. And Drew, in a couple of 2 minutes, give me a brief overview of who's Drew Bryant, how DB Orlando Collision started, and why you're here.
Sure. So previous to this industry, I had no automotive background. I was passionate about cars. I enjoyed cars, tinkering with them on my own time. But I was a regional training manager for Panera Bread, of all places. And amongst that journey, I got exposed to a very process-rich environment and working with people on communication skills and getting a team to function, right? And along the way, I ended up getting involved in an accident, and my car was taken to I didn't know any better. I was a typical, just consumer. I don't get into accidents professionally or anything. It's not like something I did regularly. Got involved in an accident, took the advice of my insurer, and ended up at one of their blue ribbon or their network, DRP shops. Got the vehicle back, and I didn't know anything, to be different. I put my trust in them, and I paid my deductible. I got my keys back. It was actually super quick. When I got the vehicle
it was
back,
shiny and clean, right? When you picked it up.
Yeah, it was nice, man. Detailed. I had extra armor all on it, and I was happy. I felt that I was served, And I got in the vehicle. Drove it for a few days, and I was getting some extra creaks, and the trunk wasn't closing just right. And I actually reached out to a friend of mine that was in the business as an independent, not working for anybody, and they performed a post repair inspection, and that inspection ended up resulting in the insurer having to buy the vehicle back from me. Exposure to that transaction pushed me down a path of basically doing research and figuring out, wait a minute, what happened here? I kind of felt duped, right? And what they were willing to expose beyond myself, but my family to, right? And just the lack of care, right? The lack of integrity behind the work that was performed. That there's no way at the level that it was done at that there weren't people involved that it wasn't just being naive to the transaction, that people were being intentional. There were things going on that I didn't know at the time. So I began my research, and long story short, started to do some travel, read every book that I can on policy verbiage and insurance litigation, and what their fiduciary responsibility was, and how we were going to, what this whole thing looked like. And then I set out to, it was enough for me to say, listen, I need to do my part and do what I can to expose this to consumers and basically make a shop that I wish I had representing me when I got into an accident. And here we are today. DB Orlando Collision is just that, right? No contracts, no underground relationships with any insurers. We respect the job the insurers have to do, and we practice every day to expose all the things that we can of the specifics of what the vehicle manufacturer suggests, rather than the economical interest of the insurer, right?
That's awesome. And it is incredible how these hassle-free repair facilities, they when you call, they make you think that, this is, let's face it, getting in an accident is never a fun thing. It's a traumatic experience. And you call, you have somebody really friendly on the phone, and everything is going to be all right. But unfortunately, there is an actual duck and pony show, smoke and mirrors in the industry, that they know that you're vulnerable and they know you're naive. And when you are in this position, they can manipulate you. And you said something really, really important, Drew. It's all about our family safety and financial well-being. And that's the reason why Drew and myself at Allies, we want to make sure that the consumer is not only being served the right way, but get what is righteously owed to them, which is a repair following manufacturer's guidelines and making sure that the vehicle is safe, because we have precious cargo on those vehicles. And when an insured calls you, it lets you know that it's going to be hassle-free. Unfortunately, if hassle-free means that you're going to be out of the loop and you're not going to know anything what's happening. Am I correct, Drew?
Absolutely.
And what happens, the consumer is not in control. And as we've been talking and on past podcasts, when you do such a huge investment on your vehicle, and you're the one who's going to live with the consequences of the resale value of the vehicle, the diminished value, you want to know these little details. And probably we could do a whole podcast just about diminished value, how that impacts you as a consumer. But here, the main reason for this podcast today is for you guys to know Drew, know a little bit about his background, what he's doing, because not all body shops are the same. And we want to make sure that the Orlando community, Central Florida community, understands that you need to learn and educate yourself of what are the questions you need to ask. If you ever get into an accident, just picking up the phone and calling your agent or calling your insurance is too late by then, because you're going to be making uninformed decisions. And we have seen it. Drew, share with our community how many claims, how the process works when people call to our shops, how desperate they are. They don't know. I call it, they're in hostile ground. And unfortunately, the direct repair shops, the contracted shops, they're in contract with the insurance company. And this is an equation of three people: the consumer, the body shop, and the insurance company. Whenever two of them get together and they make an alliance, one of them is going to lose. And the majority of the times, the consumer is the one that is completely alone, because the insurance company has a contract with the shop, and the shop, all they care is about pleasing the insurance company. So please, Drew, share a little bit about how the process works, and how at DB Orlando we're able to educate and empower the consumer to make those right choices after a collision.
Sure. I mean, I think some of the consistency that I'm seeing still practiced today, which is kind of alarming. And I don't really think the severity of what we're talking about was as bad 10 years ago. Although the relations were still there, I don't think it was as important for consumers to be so educated on these decisions as it is today, just because of the advancement of vehicle technology, right? these things, the cars that we're driving now with the proximity sensors and blind spot monitoring and all of the, I mean, we're essentially driving computers. And at times, all of them are designed to increase safety, but in many cases, designed to increase convenience. And we undermine the amount of things that are actually working in unison just to have us drive down the road. And because they're constantly there and working, we tend to forget that those are all additional features that are being required to be reset and addressed in a collision, and not necessarily saying has to be a high severity or a major accident. Something as simple as just removing the bumper to add something to the vehicle or fixing a scratch requires, in most cases, a significant amount of resets and calibrations and aiming and things. And unfortunately, as Juan's referring to the contract between an insurer and a DRP or a network shop, that they're coming to these shops and in trade for X amount of retail provided to them as a guarantee. The insured leverages the relationships that they establish with consumers over the phone. Within their strategic scripts, they'll present that they don't give consumers the option, and the only viable option, or in this case, very convenient path of least resistant option, is to use our network shop. And that's because they've got that shop under a contract that they can regulate because of the guaranteed workflow, how much to charge, what they can charge for, and what operations are going to be considered customary and what they're going to reimburse that shop for. So therefore, the person and the people responsible for dictating how the car is repaired, how the car is reset, how the vehicle's safety and integrity is restored, is obviously being driven by the economical interest of the insurer. And we don't fault them for wanting to save money. You just can't fall into the trap of being saved money on, right? I think it's too important to connect yourself with who is actually going to be guiding and telling us where are you referencing the information to be able to repair this car. And independents like Allies and DB and several others within our local market, and I know they're nationwide as well. Those shops, the days of the 10, 15-year-old methodology of writing a door estimate, there's no level of accuracy that can be provided to anyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many years you've been in the industry. If you're going to a facility and you're asking for an estimate and they walk out to your vehicle and provide you one, you can't hold any weight to that. That's simply just going through the motion. The only true accuracy is going to be derived from a complete and proper damage assessment. You got to do an analysis in the car. The vehicle's got to be measured. They need to be doing a four-wheel alignment check. And then the data and information that's gathered during those inspections needs to get referenced against the database from the people who engineered the car, not the people that are paying to repair it, right? You're taking advice from somebody that owes you money at that point. And if you're in a situation where you allow the shop to be able to reference the material provided by the manufacturer and present it to the insurer, then at that point, referencing back to Juan talking about informed decisions, that's the only way that you can make informed decisions is right. Referencing the information from the people who engineered it. And that's exactly what we try to do on every claim. And even with that influence, I think what pains me most today is not necessarily the consumers that don't know any better, right? Because I don't blame or hold that against anybody. I wouldn't know if had I not had the history that I've had in the industry. But it's the ones that when we expose to it, and maybe it's because of a financial decision, lack of financial preparation. I get it. Economy's not going the direction that we're all after. But I really would, if I could get a message to a consumer across, it's to not undermine the importance of these features on these vehicles. And I've witnessed, not often, but too many times this year, where consumers have made a decision that was not necessarily in their best interest, right? Even after being educated, unfortunately, on the specifics, simply due to financial restraints. And And I think most of it was provoked by the insurer educating them on the opposite, right? The insurance explaining, that's okay, it's going to be fine, it's going to function properly. Take it from me, being exposed to as many cars as we repair in a year. These safety features are incredibly important, and they're 100% required to make sure that the vehicle is restored. So
yeah, and like you were saying, is a lot of people take for granted how complex these vehicles are now, and consumers, we love all this convenience that we have on cars now. You look at the side view mirror and you're able to put your blinker on, and you look at the little light. If the light is not on, you're clear to go. Just so you know, if you hit the trash can, you hit the corner of the garage, and that bumper cover got scuffed. And most people, what do they do? Oh, it's just a bumper scuff, not a big deal. Let me jump online. Let me take a couple of pictures, call one of these mobile paint and body guys that they advertise that they fix the cars under the deductible. You don't have to make an insurance claim. And they'll come. It's really convenient. They go and fix it at your driveway. And the car looks decent because you don't know what a proper repair looks like. And then that sensor is not reading the same, because a lot of them, they send waves and they're sonars. If you put body filler, you put excess material, like there's some manufacturers, Nissan, Toyota, Volvo, they tell you, hey, no repairability whatsoever on those corners. And we feel for the consumer, because you don't know what you don't know. And these mobile people, bless their heart, a lot of them, they're hardworking individuals. They're trying to make a living, and they're fixing cars like it's 1989. And unfortunately, guys, that changed. I remember when I started in this industry back in '98, I was a paintless stem removal technician, doing bumper scuffs, little touch-ups here and there. I was able to do those repairs on a driveway, do a cosmetic repair for dealerships. But these vehicles didn't have not even half of the technology they have now. And now, after the years of experience and trainings and being able to rub shoulders with the best consultants and the brightest minds in this industry, we open our eyes and we're like, wow, there's families' safety is jeopardized if we don't do a proper and safe repair.
I mean, to speak directly off of that one, last week alone, to give you a little bit of insight, I had a Volkswagen in the shop, and front end accident.
An exotic Volkswagen.
We completed repairs on the front end of the car, and we talked to the customer, and they were referencing about the vehicle had crash avoidance, doesn't understand why it didn't engage. It is what it is. We wrecked the car. Let's get it fixed. So we got it fixed. After we get it all done, we're going back to perform calibrations and inspect the camera system and figure out aimings and whatnot. And we identified when we looked at it, the housing that was holding the front pre-crash sensor looked like it had a blowtorch held to it, like it was melted.
Wow.
And we checked the temperature of the camera, and it was so hot, the camera on the backside of the windshield, that it was melting its housing. And that's because a few weeks prior, customer got a crack, hit a rock, excuse me, on the highway. They had a third-party glass company come out, pop a piece of aftermarket glass in, and the sensor that the factory camera was trying to push through the front windshield, it couldn't make it through the aftermarket glass, and it was causing the camera to overheat. So I believe personally that that's probably the reason why the accident took place in the first place. Wow. Thankfully, no one was injured. But we've since put an OE piece of glass in it, placed the camera in the housing, calibrated everything properly, and wouldn't you know it, there's no temperature, and it's functioning as it's intended. So,
and the beauty of it is, this is a Volkswagen. It's not a Bentley. It's not a Cadillac. A regular Volkswagen, a Corolla, Toyota Corolla had all this technology, and it could be as simple as changing a windshield. People that wear glasses and contacts, they'll get this. when you change your prescription, you feel a little dizzy. You're not the same. And if you borrow the glasses from somebody else, oh, you may be lucky that if you see something. That's exactly what these people are doing when they're changing a windshield on your vehicle. They're changing the glass and the curvature and how thick. And let's face it, Drew, you're like me. You like tinkering with the cars and looking at it. Aftermarket glass is so different than the OE glass.
Mm-hmm.
The look, the fit, the finish is never the same. And they are so thin and flimsy. And most consumers don't even know over 70% on a rollover, the windshield is part of the integrity of the structural safety of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how you see commercials and say, "Oh, we'll change your windshield when you're in the basketball game." Guys, the glue manufacturer, the urethane manufacturer of the adhesive that is used to put that windshield tells you cannot move the car in 24 hours. And they're telling you in a commercial, "Oh, when you're in the basketball game or the football game, we'll change your windshield." Please, that's why that's why I decided to bring experts, bring colleagues from all over the nation on different type of segments. It's not only going to be automotive. It's going to be when it comes to residential, when it comes to health, when it comes to education, every aspect that you deal with insurance. Right now, we got insurance even for the cell phones that we use. I know my new phone that I have is almost a $2,000 phone. So we have insurance, and you want to know what you're signing up for because you work really hard. And based on the research that I've done, over 15% of the average American income goes to pay insurance premiums. And the worst thing that breaks my heart seeing every day, when you need them the most, they shortchange you. But only the 3% that visit shops like DB Orlando Collision, Allies Auto, and other shops that are pro-consumer, they're real independent, that they don't depend on insurance referrals, they're the ones that take their time to educate you, empower you, and edify you in a way that you're able to get what is righteously owed.
Yeah, whether it's I'm sorry, Juan, whether it's Allies Auto or DB Orlando, as long as it's an independent and their interests are serving you as the customer. I mean, because it's on the other side when you've got a network, and you can't, like I said, we can't hold it against the insurer to create a system and or a network that meets their economical interests. That we all know that's what insurance is all about. It's how they make their money, holding on to it as long as they can, reinvesting it, whatever it may be. But the extent that they're willing to go to do so, I think is what's undermined, right? Consumers just don't quite get it. I mean, that same post repair inspection that I had done to my vehicle that inevitably ended up having me involved in this industry, we now perform all throughout the year. And last year we performed a post repair inspection on a vehicle, and we uncovered. Now, mind you, this vehicle was driven by a daughter of a Air Force veteran. He returned the vehicle back to the dealership that was representing both the vehicle brand. It wasn't an alternate brand. It was a vehicle brand dealership representing the insurance blue ribbon program, DRP, however you want to refer to it. Gave him he said he got in the car with his daughter one day and he said, "Honey, something's not right here. We need to get this thing checked out." She says, "Oh, I thought that was normal, Dad, whatever." He says, "No, let me take it in." Takes it to the dealer. Dealer keeps it for 3 days, gives it back to him and gives him confidence everything's been addressed. He drives the car, puts her in his car for a few days, takes it back after 4 days of driving it and says, "Still not right. You guys need to look at it again." They give him confidence again. "Sir, everything's fine. We apologize for the inconvenience." He reaches out. It's still not right. He gets referred to me. Vehicle comes in. First thing I do before I touch a single bolt on the car, put the vehicle on a jig, and I three-dimensionally measure the chassis. 14 millimeters of structural movement in the right front end not corrected.
That's criminal, Drew.
I did not take a single part off the vehicle. I contacted the insurance involved. I contacted the owner on behalf of the consumer. I give everyone the report and said, all we've done is measure the vehicle. This is what we've uncovered. What would you like me to do? Customer instructed me to perform a proper post-repair inspection. Juan, we found that the airbag on the driver bolster was deployed at the point of accident, and it was on a national back order. But it was at the end of the month of the dealer. The car had to go, and guess what we did?
Get it out.
We got a brand new cover, and they covered up a deployed airbag with a factory plastic brand new cover. So aesthetically, from the eye, everything had looked great. And if he had not driven in that vehicle, right, and he had not said, honey, this doesn't seem right, and we had not found a little bit of structural movement, would the decision been made to potentially not look further, right? Not only was the airbag deployed, but pushed behind, when the airbag was removed, the dash structure, right, the skeleton of the dash was cracked because of the inertia of the airbag deploying, all of which was overlooked. Significant amount of one-time use hardware simply reused. Headlight gaps, the holes that hold the headlights were widened so that they can compensate for the 14 millimeters of frame movement that had never been addressed properly. And the further that they put the vehicle together, working their way out, they have to be able to get the vehicle to pass a general consumer's inspection. Inevitably, when we provided our report, within 48 hours, they picked the vehicle up. They paid the gentleman in full. They bought the vehicle back from him. I'm assuming they would run it through auction or whatever they've done with the car, and it ends up back out there in the world at some form.
In a buy here, pay here lot. And you know what breaks my heart, Drew? That car will end up being some teenager's first vehicle.
Yeah.
And let's face it, they are in so much risk because, first of all, they're getting into accidents a lot. They're not experienced, and they can be losing their lives. And it's sad, but that's why we wake up every morning and we motivate and educate our team. We're making a difference in the marketplace.
Absolutely.
And that's why not all body shops are the same. And we want to make sure that the consumer is aware of that. Because let's face it, guys, the insurance companies don't like us one bit. They're going to tell you, oh, it may going to take us a week or two to go and inspect the vehicle. But if you take it to this shop, we can start working on the car tomorrow. Unfortunately, I've seen how they tell that to the customer. The car sits on their parking lot because it's sitting with the other 400 cars in the parking lot for months. Shops like ours, we have a processes in place, and we touch those cars. And if we're not able to touch them right away, we'll tell you, hey, within 4 to 6 business days, the car is going to be going through the process, and we'll get you an accurate damage analysis. You know, that's how we call it. How you call your inspections, Drew?
Damage analysis.
Damage analysis.
Blueprinting,
yeah. So, you know, it's a matter of figuring out what are your needs. If you care about safety, if you care about how hard you work for your money and you invested in a vehicle, what's the average price on a vehicle now, Drew? Over $30K, right? That's the average.
Easy.
If you don't mind blowing 15, 20% of diminished value right after an accident, and then if the vehicle has replica counterfeit parts, knockoff parts, junkyard parts, it could diminish 30 to 40%. And not only that, you're driving an unsafe vehicle too. I don't know, but you work too hard to let a team of people take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. They take advantage of you. And a couple things that I want to go over with you, Drew. Let's categorize shops, because you have the scratch and dent little shops that's how I started my business. Then you have collision centers. And then you have the guy that doesn't have an idea of what a collision center is, and they're just hacking cars in a storage unit. And let's face it, community of Orlando, when you see the sign that says really big, we save your deductible, we waive deductibles, it means that they are committing, most of the time, fraud. They're not performing procedures. And some of these places don't even know how to open up original manufacturers' vehicles site, pay for the subscription to pull the procedures to repair your car correctly, because they don't know any better. And let's face it, Drew, I was there at one time.
100%. I think, in all honesty, it's not that this industry is filled with a lot of really good people, both on the insurance side and on the, the network shop side. There's a lot of really good folks. And it's unfortunate because when you're not being served, they're not referencing those procedures. They're not knowing to. It's 100% because they are strategically naive to what is required to do it, right? The insurer, and not necessarily only the insurer, but the system associated with the business model of the business that they're working for, their policy and procedure, is not in the interest of correctly fixing the car punctually. It's in the interest of maintaining the contracts and relations with the people that are ensuring that the cars are showing up there, right? Just that might be tough to kind of wrap around, but it's not in the interest of being accurate. Now, we've got to have some level of consistency to get them to pass a consumer's inspection, the consumer's eye. There's far too many things on that list of importance that are being undermined simply due to the fact that the people that are representing the estimate, people that are representing the assessment of damage, people that are performing the repair, people that are performing the quality assurance while doing the repair, they are all simply strategically naive, right? By not being fed that information. And they're kept in a hamster wheel of here's the next car, here's the next car, here's the next car. And they don't even have the time to go, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is a new, they're identifying modules and doors and computers in the vehicle and say, what is this? Oh, there's some things plugged into it. Let's just plug those back in, rather than understanding and anticipating and being proactive with a formal assessment up front, right? Nothing should be reactive in a vehicle repair. And that's the way we allow the vehicle to properly react in an accident. And you wouldn't, if you had your, Juan talks about the cell phone. If your jewelry was insured, right, and you had a 10-carat diamond on your hand, if that rock fell out, you wouldn't accept a cubic zirconia rock, right? You'd want the same diamond. It would look the same, it would shine the same, right? But it wouldn't hold the same value. And in order to avoid that diminished value, you got to ensure that, separate from the actual repairs, but the integrity of the parts that are going on, they've been crash tested. Parts that are going on meet the same quality and standard as they were originally manufactured by the manufacturer, not replicas that look the same, right?
Love it. I love the story of the cubic zirconia, because that's exactly how we use that story to some customers get it. And you feel cheated if you go to that amazing jeweler and they tell you, oh yeah, no problem, come next day, your diamond ring is back to you, nice and shiny, clean. But next year after that, you go and try to upgrade the rock and they tell you have a cubic zirconia. You're going to feel cheated and deceived. Guys, that's happening in the body shop industry every single day. And that's why we are educating and empowering the consumer with the Allies Community Podcast. We want to make sure that you can make informed decisions. Drew, so when the consumer has an accident, get involved in an accident, it's their right as a consumer to pick the shop of their choice, right?
100%.
And we're not lawyers, we're not attorneys here, but we will have attorneys joining us so they can explain that. By law, it's your right as a consumer to pick the shop of your choice. And the insurance company shouldn't give you any grief about it. Unfortunately, if they're out of their network, they don't like it, because it's going to be inconvenient for them. It's going to cost them a little bit more. The system is not streamlined. But at the end of the day, consumer, is your choice. Don't think, because I had customers that they call and to our office and they're, oh, but the insurance company told me that I need to take it to their shop. It's like, maybe you misunderstood, but they'll try to do everything and incentivize you to go to one of their shops. It saves them a lot of money. So, Drew, if somebody gets in a little fender bender, scratches the bumper with the trash can that person take it to one of these mobile guys or small scratch and dent fix place without risking their family safety?
Absolutely not. Yeah, regardless of severity, bumper, you bumped into the crash can or you smashed into the wife's car. Regardless what took place, I'm not saying necessarily that everything justifies an insurance claim. That's not necessarily the case. What I'm suggesting is that any decision that you make associated with repairing the vehicle or not can only be made after you've been completely informed on everything that's necessary. If it's a bumper scratch, you can't just say, you could have 10 years ago, but with the vehicle technology where it stands today, you've got to be able to look at that and say, okay, who can assess this scratch and determine if the bumper needs to be removed? Everything's got to come out of it. What technology is in the front? What is the cost of those calibrations? Do the headlights need aimed after? Do I need to put an alignment on the car? Whatever is required to be able to restore the integrity of that car in its completion needs to be determined first, and then you make an informed decision to say, I'm going to file a claim or I'm going to pay for this out of pocket.
Yeah.
Too many try to rush to that decision or try to avoid it, right? And as much, which I totally understand, right? It just even personally, right? I'm in the business. My wife ran over the mailbox a few weeks ago. I didn't put an insurance claim in, but I didn't do that to avoid the diminished value on the vehicle, right? I wanted to make sure it was repaired, completely properly on my own. But I muscled that out of pocket. So that was a decision that I made on my own, but only after the vehicle was completely dismantled, the doors were completely removed, all one-time use parts were referenced, calibrations were referenced, we determined what was required to restore, and then I looked at the bill and said, I can handle that, right? You can't make that prematurely.
It's something so simple, Drew, as a interior repair, a rip or a tear on a leather door panel, a bolster on a seat. A little repair, like paintless dent removal on a brand new vehicle. And I'm going to go and tell you why. If you're making repairs on a bolster of a seat where the cushion airbag is, and they perform a regular leather repair where they add extra material, covering up stuff, that could jeopardize the timing of that airbag. If you are getting a dent remove out of a door, next time you get into your car, you're going to see little labels, black labels. Some of these dent guys drill holes on your vehicle at the bottom to gain access. Or they remove the label and they never put it back. Just so you know, a lot of vehicles have pressure sensors inside of the doors. So every time you do a repair and you're going to be invasive, that you're removing the vapor barrier, which is a plastic cover to protect the door panel from getting humidity inside of the car, all that can jeopardize in a subsequent accident. The sensor doesn't read the pressure and your precious cargo is not protected by an airbag. Something so simple as just trying to get a little dent out of a door. It could be that critical. So folks, we want to make sure that you understand that not all body shops are the same. And you want to choose wisely. Go to an independent shop that has your best interests in place. Let them prepare an accurate damage analysis of what's wrong with your vehicle. Have them go over the proposed repairs, back it up with factory manufacturers repair guidelines. Because I know if you go to DB Orlando or you go to Allies Auto, we will show you and back up all the procedures that are needed and the reason why. Then you can make an informed decision. Because sometimes saving a couple of $100, it's not worth it when people's lives are being jeopardized in jeopardy here. And every shop is not equipped the same. The most important resource is the humans who are fixing that vehicle. And I know, Drew, just like us at Allies, we spend hundreds and thousands of hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars in training to make sure that our employees they are equipped and they have the knowledge, so when it's needed they can apply it. And let's face it, that's why we provide, I know Drew does too, we provide shop tours, and you want to know where your car is going to be repaired, how they're going to be treating it. And it's like, would you ever go to a restaurant that you're not ever able to say, hey, can I go and look at the kitchen really quick? Yeah, I do that. My son does that all the time. He's so curious. He's like, can I go and see the kitchen? And he'll tell me, oh my God, it was clean. It was nice. Same thing with your vehicle. We
welcome with open arms any shop tours that any consumer shows interest, right?
Yep, we have open door policy, but not all body shops will allow you to do that. Why? Because when you go back there to the shop, you're gonna start seeing cars with different color body parts, and you start going to see the Tong Yang and all these replica counterfeit knockoff parts being used. And all that jeopardized the quality of the repair, guys. And in the future, we're going to be doing other podcasts where Drew and I are going to handpick post-repair inspections that we have done, and we're gonna go live and expose that. And unfortunately, we don't feel we're not proud of doing that. But I believe with the changes of law, the changes of what they're happening in our state, it needs to be done, because now we need to get loud, letting the consumer know how the whole scheme works. And that's our promise to you, Orlando. We're going to be honest and ethical. We're just humble service providers who want to serve you the right way, how you deserve. And as professionals, we deserve to pay our team a fair wage. They can feel proud of what they're doing every day and don't be demoralized. Unfortunately, if you go to social media, it breaks my heart seeing how, I will say, if you were going to put a percentage, Drew, what percentage of the industry is burned out, morally demoralized of seeing how you show up to work, they tell you one thing, but when the integrity counts, they tell you to do it wrong?
Yeah. It's definitely more than half. I would say it's probably closer to 3/4, if not more.
If I was put a percentage, I would say over 80% of the workers of this industry are fed up, and they're just tired of the abuse, and nobody has the backbone to be like Drew Bryant, like myself, and be like, you know something, I'm going to take care of my customers, but the consumer needs to understand that I got to take care of my team. And here's all the documentation, why this is needed, why this is required. And we don't get upset if the insurance company don't want to pay. But we want to make sure that you understand, as a consumer, you don't want somebody working for free. Would you want to go to a restaurant, or you personally, you go to work and your superiors tell you you got to stay a couple extra hours to get this deadline going, and then they tell you, oh, you got to do it for free? Nobody likes to work for free. They work really hard too, and our technicians, we are so proud of them. They are in continuous education, and that's what shops that care do. If you walk our facilities, you don't see 3 inches of dust on the equipment. The equipment is being used every day. It's not that we get the equipment just to get the certification and then they never get used. Folks, over 98% of the post-repair inspections that I do, I don't know about Drew, they don't even pre-measure the vehicles structurally. He just set it 14 millimeters off. That's criminal. The structure of the vehicle was compromised.
I did 12 last year, right? 12 last year. 10 of them resulted in buybacks due to improper repair.
It's criminal. And that's why our promise to the Orlando community, this is all for you, community. It's not about us. We are blessed to be busy. We always have work, but we want to make sure that the consumer is aware of what's happening. Cars are getting more expensive than ever. More code is being written. Now, you want to replace a headlamp on a vehicle, you gotta make sure that car accepts that headlamp. You gotta program it, because if not, the headlamp won't work. So it's important for you. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. Find a shop. If you are out of Orlando and you're seeing this and you're from some other state, hey, send us an email, call us. We have a network of different shops in the country that are like-minded, that we all want to help the consumer. It's funny how many times, Drew, we are really involved on the social media, how people is like, who can fix this car in Florida? And they always refer you or I or our colleagues. And that's what we want to do. Another thing that we offer, I don't know, if you're buying a used vehicle, let us do a pre-purchase inspection. It's 100% free. Why? Because we want you buying safe cars. What happened a couple of months ago that we have all these floods here in Orlando? You won't believe how many cars are at the dealer lots right now. There were flood damaged vehicles that they're being sold. Let us inspect it. A free visual inspection is no cost to you. If we see any red flags, then we'll tell you, hey, we need to do a proper inspection, and that will come with a cost. But it's better to pay a professional to inspect the vehicle than make a $20,000 mistake.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's 100%. We perform those free, pre-purchase inspections all the time, and complimentary to consumers. There's so many of those that result in the confidence to not move forward with the purchase of the vehicle. And I sleep good those nights, knowing that I not only avoided the consumer from having some potential negative equity within the vehicle financially, but potentially save their lives from something major happening.
Yeah, last week we did pre-purchase inspections for one of our customers. His vehicle got totaled out by the insurance, and he brought me 2 vehicles. One of them was from one of these big wholesale people that buy leases. And unfortunately, out of 10 of those that I've done for that dealership, 9.5 were bad. And I did the quick inspection, and he was like, let me ask you, what is the difference between this car and the one you brought me yesterday? Oh, this one is $6,000 less. Can you tell the difference on fit and finish quality is not worth it? Pay the $6,000 more for the clean car that has a clean Carfax, that has less mileage. And I told you it was a green light, thumbs up. This one, the $6,000 savings is gonna cost you 20 grand 3 to 4 years down the road. It's incredible, Drew. It's like people go to Home Depot and they go and buy paint for their houses, and they see different tiers of paint and they think they're all the same. No, they're not. There's a reason. The people who are gonna do a quick flip, they use the cheap paint, they don't care. But the ones that really care and they want to do a good job, then they want to make sure that paint job holds up, they buy the top quality paint. It's less work, it goes farther, and it performs better. Same exact thing in the body shop industry. We could use a $75 gallon of clear coat that it will self-destruct after 36 months in this weather in Florida, or you can buy a $1,000 gallon of clear coat, which is the ones that we use at our shops. They come with a lifetime warranty. They perform, and if anything goes wrong, we have no problem. We'll redo it for free. But there's a reason why people cut corners in order to save money, to give you discounts. And it may sound more appealing to you, but it comes with a price that you're going to pay at the end. I don't know about you, Drew, but every year when the weather changes, I start seeing cars with delaminating clear coat. It's like, I don't know. Yesterday it was really cold, now it's hot, and now I got bubbles in my clear coat. I'm like, let me ask you this. Did you bought the car 3 years ago, or you had some sort of repairs done? It's like, how do you know? I'm like, I can tell, because cheap materials don't hold up in this state. Oh my God, you really know? It's like, it's just experience, folks. It's not worth it. So, Drew, we already are out of time. You have any closing thoughts for our Orlando, Central Florida consumers?
Yeah, first, I just want to say kudos to you, Juan. I know this is all about consumers, but I've got to watch over the last decade how passionate you are about this business and about consumers. And this is, like you said in the beginning, is something that you've talked about doing for a long time. And the fact that you finally pulled the trigger on it, and you're sitting here being able to get this message out, it's really inspiring. So for that, kudos to you, man. Second, to consumers in general, like I said, if it's not coming to DB Orlando and you're not going to Allies, fine, but you owe it to yourself to get an independent that's ethically looking out for your best interest. And I know what it's like to go through and be taken advantage of. I'm not saying that you've got to get into the body business to be able to make a difference, but just make a difference within your own four walls of your own home, right? Know that God forbid, friends, family, colleagues, somebody gets involved in an accident, do your part and educate them to do nothing more than to at least get a second opinion from an independent. And if you've gotten the advice from an independent that's referenced the manuals in the vehicle and referenced OEM repair procedures and considered measuring it, whatever it is, and you still decide to go the insurance route, well, more power to you. But my advice would be most definitely to run by any form of severity, regardless if it's a scratch or the vehicle is plowed, to protect yourself from the diminished value, from potentially risking the safety and overall integrity of the vehicle that would risk your family's lives. Do it for them. Try not to be clouded by the financial burden that we potentially may all be under at some point moving forward in the economy, and understand that the vehicle is your second, in many cases, your second biggest investment, financial responsibility within our lives, right? And in order to restore that, you owe yourself the due diligence to make sure it's being done right.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you for taking your time to being with us. I am so proud of your team and your business, and I'm excited about the new facility that you guys are going to be moving next year, and that means that we're going to be able to service more customers in the Orlando area, and that's all it's all about. We're not able to service everybody, but the ones that we serve them with dignity, with integrity, and making sure that they're raving fans after they leave our shops. And I want to leave you guys with a quick quote from Ben Franklin. He says, "The bitterness of a poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. Sometimes when it sounds too good to be true, there's a reason." And never take advice from the person that owes you money on how to collect it.
Amen.
We're done for the podcast today, and we'll see you next week at the Allies Community Podcast. Your host, Juan Rodriguez, and thank you, Drew, for being with us, and we're going to have many more. I hope you had fun. I definitely had a lot of fun. And have a blessed day, Orlando. Please share, please comment, and share this with your friends and family, because definitely more people need to hear about these two amazing shops and other shops in our area that serve the Orlando community the right way. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.